Hello virtual pilots, I'm Andre Celesti and welcome to another special edition for our HIP Talk Show. One that is dedicated to the upcoming OH-58D Kiowa Warrior, a helicopter that needs no introduction in our show, as many of you already kept track together with us on all the progress, news and anticipation we got for this project. So what better way to get even more insight on what is to come than talking to the developers of the Kiowa? Well, today we got a treat from Polychop Simulations themselves, the third-party developer that brought to us the Gazelle, and will be the one to release a fully equipped OH58D in DCS World. Today we are together with Sven and Dan and other important members of the Polychop team that are ready to discover more aspects of the Kiowa in our exclusive talk show. They have also prepared some surprises for you, so stay tuned throughout our interview so you can see more impressive shots. So, Sven, Dan, thank you for being here on our talk show. Please, before we, dive deeper into our interview, let's tell our audience who are you and what's your position here at Polychop Simulations.
Hi, my name is Sven. I'm one of the few founders of Polychop Simulation, the last remaining one actually, and I'm also the CEO, responsible for talking to manufacturers and all the licensing parts of it. Plus, I currently do all the 3D and 2D art for our project.
My name is Dan, and I'm one of the community coordinators and producers for Polychop Simulations. I'm also somewhat of a developer on the Gazelle project, where I do some 3D and 2D artwork, as well as some Lua scripting.
Hi everyone, I'm Kinku, and I'm the lead developer at Polychop working on the Kiowa. I'm primarily responsible for developing and implementing the flight model, but I'm also overseeing all of the other systems as well, especially things like avionics and gameplay systems, such as the Pilot AI, LT-MUMS, and improved data modem.
Hi, I'm Juice. I am the community manager on Discord. The wall, the shield between the community and the development team, especially in the run-up to the release of the Kiowa, when the coders are all going to be working double hard to get the release out to you guys as quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Well, it is great to have all of you here on the HIP Talk Show, especially in such a good timing prior to the upcoming release of the Kiowa Warrior. It is safe to say that in the last few months, DCS World got a lot of helicopter enthusiasts quite rallied, with more modules coming up like the Chinook, the BO-105, and of course the Kiowa, all adding to the already decent collection of helicopters we have in the sim. So, what made you choose the Kiowa as your next module?
The Kiowa was chosen because of my childhood influences. I played Longbow 2 as a child or as a teenager, and I did remember that aircraft inside of the game. So when I searched for a new module after the Gazelle, I went through a list of helicopters, and there was a question: would it be a light helicopter, heavy helicopter, attack helicopter? So there were some of them on the table, and at some point, just the ball on top visual stuck to me as much as it does to pretty much anyone who knows the Kiowa Warrior. And I remembered again saying the Longbow 2 time of my childhood. So that was the first influence of choosing the Kiowa Warrior. And then on the process of diving into the project, I actually realized more that's the right aircraft for DCS in its capabilities and what you can actually achieve as a player with that aircraft in the field, in the ecosystem of DCS.
Can you share with our viewers how many people work on the project?
For the Kiowa, we have one artist, which is Sven. He's responsible for both the 2D and 3D assets. Right now we have two coders, Rober and Kinku. And then there's me, recently joined by Juice, taking care of marketing and administrative duties. When it comes to actual development, that adds up to just 3. And counting the supporting roles, it's a total of 5. But this project entails more than just developers. We have a large number of SMEs and testers that have stuck with us throughout the years.
So despite what people may think, the size of the third-party development force is mostly not what you expect. From 3 to 5 people, and of course a larger number of testers, but a team that coordinates everything and gets hands-on with the project is low in size.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, in the end, we have only 3 people creating the Kiowa. That is not what people expect, especially when you see the end results.
And on top, when manufacturers talk to you and ask you how big is your team, you see very huge round eyes when you just mentioned, well, we're 3 actively working at it with a 4th person that does some stuff on it as well. And even the manufacturers assume that the teams are bigger. For some companies, this might be right, but for us, it's more quality than quantity.
One of the most interesting aspects of this project is that it will avoid an early access release and a pre-order period. This is, if I can say, a very hard thing to achieve these days. For example, when I mentioned this aspect about the Kiowa, people wow and remain shocked of the fact that you guys are planning to deliver, well, a full module in day 1. Please tell us more about this plan. When did you choose to do it and why?
Okay, so this goes back to the founding of the company, where my former co-founders and I, we made a decision internally that we're not going to go early access, but not pre-order. That's one thing, because we didn't feel it was fair to the customer in the end to ask for money and not having a product deliver. So maybe it roots back to the way how we were raised and by our families. So and I always said, we're not going to go into a bakery shop, ask for a bakery or for bread in the morning that we want to use on a Sunday morning breakfast time, and pay it and pick it up 4 weeks later. Although I think the pre-order can be a good tool if it's used in certain ways and will fill the needs of certain teams or companies as they feel to use it, I still feel that pre-order is not something that I want to use in the future. Maybe we will, who knows. But for early access, there was basically also a decision back in the days that I think was important for me or for us as a team, that first of all, if you do go early access, you have to keep focusing on the module after release for an uncertain time. That could be 1 year, could be half a year, depending on what is left to do. And it could also be 4 or 5 years, as you don't know yet, maybe in the state of your decision, how you release the early access, if it's a good position as a release point. So the decision we made, and then that was carried on, was that we said, okay, we want to go so-called mission ready. This is what we call it. It is basically a full module that has all mission aspects and all systems provided to the customer from day 1. But again, as we have mentioned in our Q&As, there are certain updates that we want to do, which are not mission critical, so to speak. That's why we're saying we're delivering a mission ready and not an early access. So it's more than early access. What the customer makes out of it, it's up to the customer himself if it's fulfilling the needs or fulfilling the opinion or the term that we're using. But we do have certain goals that we set ourselves to meet these expectations for ourselves.
So, for what I understand from all of this, it will be a mission-ready Kiowa with what is advertised as a full module, but it will still be polished as time goes by, bugs squashed, and maybe, if I may say, new features coming out if DCS World provides changes, let's say innovations, and the module will benefit from new things.
Yeah, what I would like to add to what Sen said, and he basically said it, but for me it's more simple. What you get is basically a finished Kiowa, and it's just that when you say it's not early access, people do not expect more stuff added to it. But as technology changes, like you said, DCS is constantly changing. New technology is being implemented. More opportunities become available to us as well, and there might be things that we want to add later on. It's not like this is the product and we'll never change it again. But it's not early access either, because you get a fully functional Kiowa helicopter that you can play with.
We were actually having a discussion about early access just recently, and there is also a practical aspect to it. So I think for an effective early access program, I think we were discussing it before, and it's important that you've got a clear understanding of your roadmap and your milestones and when you can deliver upon those milestones, because you're making those promises to the community. That's easier for Eagle Dynamics to do because they own the product and they build the technology and they have an inherent understanding of it from the beginning. Right. But we're a small third-party team, and we are learning how to build the module while we are building the module. So from a practical aspect, it was almost impossible, I think, to give or create a precise or even meaningful roadmap with milestones for either the Gazelle or the Kiowa, because in both cases, the teams developing those modules were still learning what they could build, how they could build it, and there's absolutely no way that a team in that situation can accurately estimate the development time that's going to be needed to actually build those build those features and then get them out there. So I just kind of wanted to say that there are also practical concerns with early access for a third-party developer.
Will the Kiowa's Multicrew be functional on day one?
Yes, for sure. Multicrew was one of the huge parts that we actually wanted to have on day one for the Kiowa release, because we did feel, and we still feel, very confident that it's going to be a very good implementation. As mentioned in the Q&A recently, it was rewritten already once, so we've gone through 2 iterations of the Multicrew. Unfortunately, the person who is responsible for it is not available today. That's Robert. And it was a demand that we set onto our own module that we wanted to have Multicrew from day one on, because it is a 2-seater.
Yeah.
It's meant to be 2-seater. There are actually responsibilities on left seat that will be handled by left seat, and there are responsibilities on right seat that will be handled by right seat. So to actually be able to properly employ the aircraft into the DCS ecosystem, we had a very strong feeling that it could be a huge thing for the community and the players to be able to sit side by side in a cockpit and enjoy the whole system fidelity together. And so yeah, we actually pushed hard on that, and I think we actually achieved it to the point where we can say that it's a satisfying experience. And we're still constantly trying to update and solve little things here and there that we see to make it a even better experience. But as Multicrew is something that is in development for DCS for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years maximum, it's still relatively new technology to the DCS ecosystem. So there might be problems that arise, and that's going to be then patched after the release. So if there's anything that comes up that we have not seen yet for whatever reason in our testings, we will have to investigate, and we'll investigate and very likely fix this. How much time that will need for a fix? That's upon the issue that arises, so we cannot make any estimations or promises here how long stuff takes, but it's definitely going to be one of our core system implementations that we really have a keen eye on and want to make it work and have it as enjoyable for the community as possible.
We already know that an AI system is something on your priority list, but for our listeners out there who are new to the Kiowa news, can you let them know about the Plan AI? Will an AI system be integrated on day one?
There are actually going to be 2 AIs, as it were, within the Kiowa. So we have a pilot AI and a left-seater AI, and the left-seater AI would be responsible for observation and target acquisition. The pilot AI has already been implemented, and that was demonstrated in the Q&A, so you can go and see it.
Yeah.
I did a live demo there. The left-seater AI is what's going to come after launch, and the reason for that is the left-seater AI, it's a large chunk of work that touches on features that we have never tackled as a team before, and I feel very strongly that I want to give it the appropriate amount of consideration and design and testing and development that it deserves. We want this to be an effective and strong UI, and to a certain point we're still determining what that AI needs to do and how users will interact with that AI. And I think the user interaction is actually the most important part of it for me. How will a player interact with this UI in the game? There's a certain point where I am working on my own assumptions, experiences as a game designer and as a player of DCS, and I use those assumptions and experiences to build the pilot AI. But when it comes to the co-pilot AI, I actually want to see how the community is going to employ the Kiowa. So I'm really looking forward to the release and the reception of this module, how players are going to utilize this in missions and what they care about and what tools they need in order to affect their missions.
By any chance, do you have any names for this AI?
Well, I mean, we referred to it usually as Barunda's AI.
Okay,
Barunda's actually provided voice lines for the pilot AI so far, because that's what's been implemented. But that may change. I am considering having different voice actors, as it were, for each different role. So it's obviously very distinct who is the pilot, who is the left seater. So yeah, that may change. The voice actors may change in the future implementation. Just coming back, and again, sorry, I just want to touch on
Please.
the getting player feedback thing. When I developed the pilot AI, I actually had the benefit of having all of that information readily available to me from the Gazelle, because when we did the new flight model of the Gazelle, I rewrote the autopilot system, because the previous implementation of the autopilot was a bit more similar to the AI autopilot, in that it wasn't very realistic. It was a bit on rails. So I rewrote that to make it a more realistic implementation of the system that's found in the real Gazelle. Unfortunately, that did make it harder to use. And we got a lot of feedback from people who said, okay, we appreciate that it's more realistic, but I really need an AI type auto hover system that I can just rely on. I can just put it into a hover and I can just sit down and look into for example, the periscope or the Vivian. And with the periscope especially, you're dividing your attention between what's on this little tube in front of you, and when you're looking at it, you don't have such a great visibility of what's going on outside the cockpit. So your attention is very much divided between inside and outside, and that makes it much more harder to try and affect flying in the Gazelle, and essentially multitasking between what's going on in your sensors, what's going on around you. So that was actually a lot of the driving factor in the design of the pilot AI for the Kiowa, and that AI will be coming to the Gazelle as well at some point.
Now, for some of our viewers that have no knowledge of what the Kiowa represents as a scout helicopter in DCS World, what can you tell them to expect with this module? What they can look for?
As a first experience for a player in this aircraft, what you can expect is, first of all, a very detailed flight model that will take its time to be learned. That's certain. Even I needed some time to learn to properly fly this aircraft on multiple levels, as normal flight, and even then going beyond into combat flight. And you really want to learn to fly the aircraft, and want to give yourself time to fly it. It's per se not easy to be flown, but it's definitely manageable. And from the systems, what we'll bring to the table, it has a lot of systems that actually we've seen in different aircrafts as well before, as the Kiowa itself was more or less the test bed for the US Army for multiple systems that they implemented in other programs. What is probably the most interesting part of the aircraft is, maybe from my perspective, not the weapon suit itself, because in the end it's a weapon, you shoot it and you destroy a target. I think the interoperability between you as an asset in the field or in the ecosystem of DCS World and other players with different assets, including A-10, other fighters, Apaches, or anything that can actually work hand in hand with you, because you, as a forward observer, actually do your recon, and you have a very good understanding, or should have a very good understanding, what the battlefield looks like, and can stage and direct the actual flow on the battlefield with that aircraft, while being on the front line yourself. So other features that might be very interesting is the data link between the two aircrafts that is possible to be established through the L2 MOM system, so you can actually work with a wingman or multiple wingmans hand in hand on a mission environment. And maybe an interesting feature is that you can actually watch the camera feed of your buddies, or including a drone if it's available in the mission. Unfortunately, we cannot direct the drone or control the drone from the aircraft. That's currently not possible for us at all. And this whole system package is actually what might be very interesting for the player itself. what you can do with it and how you can employ it on the battlefield, including the fact that you actually have a sight system that's above the aircraft, which means you can actually sneak up on targets. You're not exposing yourself to possible threats out there, and you have a very well equipped defense system, including CMOS and RWR and a laser warning receiver that will tell you or give you an SA about your current situation in terms of threats, so you can outmaneuver, you can actually outfly dangerous conditions and stage yourself in a way that you can employ your weapons against these threats in a very precise and on-point manner, I would say. That's one of the other key functions or abilities of this aircraft that I think will outstand other aircrafts.
And Kinku, I think you want to add a few things too?
So from an aircraft perspective, what you're getting is a light, agile, nimble helicopter. It's a lot of fun to fly. It will take a little bit of getting used to. But from a platform perspective, what I'd like to say is that with the exception of the radar system, the Kiowa has every capability that the Apache has. And when it comes to the systems, I think a lot of players will find a lot of familiarity with the Apache, as the Kiowa was largely used as a test bed for the design and development of the systems that came later on for the Apache. So you will find similar sensor systems. You have a TV, you have the infrared sight, you have moving maps, you have the ability to designate and track targets. Of course, you have the laser and laser designator, and in terms of weapons, you have very similar weapons as well. You have a machine gun, you have rockets, you have Hellfires. You also have laser guided rockets on top of that, and of course you have the air-to-air Stinger system, which is a lot of good fun. The Kiowa is primarily a reconnaissance platform, so it has a lot of communication and interoperability systems, such as the L2 MUMs and the data link, or the improved data modem, which is used for transmitting messages or data messages between Kiowas. But its lethality on the battlefield should not be underestimated. It is perfectly capable of bringing its weapon systems to bear and making a difference.
Now, having missions in mind, the tutorial section is a very important one for each module in DCS World, as it is in fact, how we call it, the first handshake between the user and the module. What can we expect in regards of tutorial missions? Will they be voiced? Are they in a long or short format?
So in regards of the training missions, there will be, at the moment, I think 13 missions provided as training missions. All of these missions actually focus on the systems, or basically the parts of the aircraft, which includes startup as being, for example, a single mission. Then we have navigation and the weapons and communications, so that the player actually is not overwhelmed by the amount of information that's available at that training mission. We actually decided to keep it relatively short, on point to the actual part of the aircraft, and then you can actually learn on your own speed the aircraft, and I think this is going to contribute to the first handshake to the aircraft between player and aircraft very well. Yeah, that's what will be available on release.
Will the Kiowa be part of the trial program in DCS World, where our users get to try the modules for a few weeks before making their decision to purchase or not?
Unfortunately, no, because we decided back when the contracts were signed that we're not going with a trial on the Kiowa Warrior, which has multiple factors behind it, including their limits to what can be done or cannot be done through the manufacturer license. As people might know or not know yet, there's a product-specific license behind this aircraft that we achieved that was important to me. So there are certain demands, and there are certain points to the aircraft that the manufacturer is, I would say, demanding per se. The good side of it is that we actually were able to provide a Kiowa that could go in a detail where I think without a manufacturer license, this project would have not been able to go that far in depth into systems and as well into what we're bringing to the table, including its latest software suite as well that was used on the aircraft.
Now, we have seen the previous showcase videos with the M4 rifle taking shots at insurgents from within the helicopter. The video was recorded in VR, and I know I am curious, and also other members of our HIP crew, will we be able to shoot using the mouse and keyboard, like, for example, an FPS shooter?
So the simple answer to this question is that yes, you can use it using a mouse and keyboard. The VR version, or more accurately, the hand controller version will automatically be available to you if you have hand controllers switched on in DCS. If at any point you switch those off, even live during during gameplay, you can revert back to the mouse controlled version. And that mouse controlled version works equally well in VR and on a 2D screen. There are limitations of the mouse controlled implementation, though. You do not have the freedom of aiming that you do with the VR version. There are basically physical constraints which are evident in the animations of the left seater when they're holding the rifle. The cockpit of the Kiowa is a very constrained space. It's very difficult. You're strapped into your seat. There's also an armor panel that you have to swing open. So you have a limited amount of maneuverability, especially with that door frame as well. So that is reflected in the mouse controlled version. The VR version, for various reasons, isn't locked at all. You can aim that weapon anywhere.
Petrovich here, including at the pilot?
Including at your pilot, but so far we haven't been able to shoot the pilot. So that might save some interest. So far we've tried. We haven't been able to shoot the pilot. I think it's simply too close to the muzzle, and the game doesn't initiate the bullet fast enough.
Well, I will still try.
I don't consider it a very serious feature of the module, right? We kind of do consider it a bit of a gimmick because it has limited use, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun to sit there, and it's a lot of fun to use those VR controllers, and that's what I like to encourage. And that's why I'd like to have the VR version have that greater degree of freedom. And it's just about sitting in that cockpit and having a good laugh.
Any sidearm support option, or the smoke grenades being used in some way?
There's no sidearms. The smoke grenades are implemented. They are not implemented to be used with VR hand controllers. Unlike the M4, it's a bit more complicated to go through the sort of the throwing action and especially the release of a smoke grenade. It's something I've considered, but it's not a priority at this time. Yeah. But you can click on the smoke grenades on the dashboard, and the left seater will go through an animation of picking them up and dropping them out the left side. Yes. And you have 3 slots, so you can equip up to 3 smoke grenades, and I think there are 6 colors that you can choose from of smoke grenades to take with you.
If you can talk about it, can you tell us what's the current status of the Kiowa right now?
Yes, we actually can talk about a little bit of stuff that we're working on right now. As we've revealed already in the Q&A, we are polishing last bits and pieces of the Multicrew. That's what Robert does, and we're extensively testing the Multicrew on that regard, because as I said earlier, it's important to us to have this functioning properly at release. We're then also fixing minor little things that were coming up in our internal testing past weeks, and so in the end, from our perspective, we're just shaping everything to have all in place for the release. Generally, I would say it is ready to go, more or less. It's just little minor things, and we're actually in the brink of having it complete as we want to have it for the release, as polished as possible. Sure, there might be some stuff, or there will definitely be some stuff that might come up that has slipped us, but it should not be any major things at all, because we've tracked over the past year hundreds of bugs, resolved them, and retested them at least twice, I think, most of the times. And the coding side, or the coding team, actually has taken care of that in such a great manner that I can proudly say I have a good feeling for the release in terms of where this product is right now. And which is why we actually now have a release time, or a release window.
And just to make sure everybody knows, let's hear about that release date or period.
Yeah, that's right. We have a release window set currently for the end of May or the beginning of June, and we're pretty confident we're gonna make that.
So for everyone listening, straight from Polychop themselves, we have a release period. The end of this month, the end of May, or the beginning of June. Looking forward. Do you have any future modules being planned for the future? Even if you cannot disclose any information or the names, can our viewers expect more full releases modules to be announced soon from Polychop Simulations?
That's an interesting question, and
I made it
But-
too hard.
No, it's just without revealing anything. So, and the team told me, Sven, just shut up.
Okay, okay.
No, but in the end, no, there's stuff we're working on. Sure, in the background, we will not talk about it unless we feel ready to talk about it. So we are very likely, or we very likely have learned out of conditions that happened to us in the past.
Yeah.
That we were showing content too early. That's not going to be the case, which unfortunately means that the community has to wait for information to a point where we feel we can reveal something. Are we working on new stuff? Yes, definitely. It's not going to end with the Kiowa. We have ideas, and we're still young in the general age of our team, and we have a future that we plan as a team. And I think we have made the steps with the Kiowa that will enable us to do things as we like to in terms of the aircrafts that we envision, because it was a very steep learning curve out of the complexity of the Kiowa. We have done as a team on a system level so many different in detail systems that will cross us as a team again on other projects that we have looked at, that I think we have the experience and the knowledge to actually tackle our future ideas very well. And what that might be, well, it's just going to stay a mystery until we reveal it. So, yeah. And for future plans, we also look for new people to fill positions and the positions of the art department of our company. So feel free to apply even through HIP or through our personal Discord, or not personal Discord, but our company Discord. And this will then be processed internally. And you will receive an answer back from us. And as I understand it as well, we also want to grow on the code side of things in the future. So even if you're interested in becoming part of the coding team, don't hesitate. You can also apply, as we want to grow as a company, and the projects we have in mind are going to be expanding as well. So.
That's all for everyone who is interested in this opportunity. I'll link in the video description Polychop's Discord, and let us know also on our HIP Discord if you want to apply for the previous mentioned positions. You can also ask our community managers Sergeant Dev Rupesh and Natasha. And so, I have no doubt that the future is bright for modules like the Kiowa, and we are all eager to see what third parties, just like yourself, can achieve in the world of Digital Combat Simulator. I, for one, am excited to be able to present these projects and share more views behind the scenes in the development of each module. Thank you so much for being here, thank you for your time and having this conversation with us. We are grateful, and I hope that in the future we can meet again and bring more information for the community.
Thank you, HIP, for having us around and having us on your stage. I think I can speak for the whole team. It was fun tonight to talk to you and your team. And we also are thanking all the people in the community that actually supported us all the years, especially the people that were sticking out with us on and inside of the project. That means the SMEs that were around. That means a lot to us, because without them, it would have not been possible to create this aircraft in such a detail that it actually is a very, very good and close rendering of the real aircraft. And also I want to thank here in this regard my community manager Dan, who actually convinced me to push on Gazelle updates, and I think that was a good thing to do for the community. I also want to thank Kinku for taking on the role of the development side of the code. As people know that in the past things happened inside of the company. So he was in the right spot at the right time and actually tackled it. And I also want to thank Robert of being around for all these years as well, and having taken the huge task of trying to do something that was not easy to do. In this case, the Multicrew. I think that's the one he will be famous for a long time. And yeah, also Juice for being around as the new community manager, who actually keeps the back clear of us that are actually in the development itself. And that's basically it, I think, for today. And yeah, thanks for your invite again, and we will definitely come back if you want us around.
And so, our special interview with Polychop Simulations has come to an end. As always, exclusive content like this is first available for our Patreon members, but always gets released to everyone in a short amount of time. Remember to check our sponsors vrrock for your VR blue light protection and prescription lenses, Fox Managed Solutions for the best DCS servers out there, the LAN Clip for your wireless head tracking experience, mozaracing with their amazing technology, and PIMAX for the most quality VR headsets that the market can offer. And subscribe to keep in touch with all the latest news on your favorite simulators and games. I am Andre Celesti, reminding you to fly safe, and I'll see you next time.